Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Blacadian universe. I needed to talk about it. I need to talk about the brilliance of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance. I'm not going to dive into it because many others have, highlighted all the beautiful messaging that was, throughout it, and just the amazing important political statements that were made and such an important big stage. Congratulations to Kendrick Lamar on such a beautiful piece of art. If one thing, that I love is symbolism in art. And it was just, yeah, amazing. Like, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, I just watched that performance. Um, and yeah, it's just amazing. But it did get me thinking about um, Black identity and just the diversity and the beauty in all Black people, and um, why that should be celebrated and highlighted as much as possible. So let's talk about it. Now, one of the interesting things about um, Black identities, I should say, is that there's such a diversity. And one of the things about white supremacy and racism is that anti-Black racism specifically is it tries to reduce the complex, diverse nature of many different types of Black peoples into, frankly, African American history. African American history is um, very well known. And what's interesting about that, and again, white supremacy, is that the only stories that they want to tell of African American history centers whiteness. So they always want to talk about the enslavement of African people being brought to America. And, that's the story that they want to tell. They want to make you believe that, African history, uh, Black people's history is only around, and dominated by trauma, white supremacy. And that's not it. That's not who we are as a people. And, you know, when I say Black is, a social construct. It's not real. It's not, but it is very real because racism is very real and it has the power to impact and transform lives. But when I say Black identity, so when someone looks at me and I identify as Black, um, it's because, they're going to see me as a Black person. They're not, especially if they're racist, they're going to be ignorant to, they're not like, oh, tell me about the the diversity in the Black communities, Denise. Oh, you're a Caribbean descent. Like, they don't care. They see Black and they're going to be like, you Black, you Black, you Black. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm Black. I get it. And that's part of who I am and I'm proud of it. So I don't want anyone walking away with like, Denise said she's not Black. Not at all. I'm super Black. I'm like a blackety black. But it's just one of those things where, but I'm not a Black American. I'm Black Canadian. And um, that's one of the reasons why I have this podcast is because, I literally can't tell you how many times I've traveled across different, you know, places in the world, even in America, where people are like, what? There's Black people in Canada? I'm like, yep, we're here. We're in a minority, but we're still here. And so, I love that I'm Black and Canadian, and I know the differences that that brings from the Black American experience. And, um, it's just, I never shy away from that because I feel to pretend that I'm I understand the African American experience or that it's similar, it feels disingenuous. And that's one of the things that I feel I don't want to do with anything, especially when it comes to my identity and my racial identity, is pretend to be something that I'm not. And so let me just backtrack here. So one of the things about the African American story and it being uh, told by people that don't look like us, it's because, they tell us this version of, you know, um, history where, they can center the story on, this trauma and how, some great white man eventually put an end to slavery. Like they make it seem like the slaves were just, black enslaved people were just hanging around, just waiting to be saved. That wasn't the case at all. Um, you know, there was fighting. We didn't accept ever being enslaved. There was always the struggle and the resistance. And it wasn't someone just like being like, you know what, out of the goodness of my white heart, I'm going to end slavery. That's never how freedom is, won. But I digress. So what happens is, when people want to put me in that box and my story in that box, and I try to, you know, tell them the differences. And, it's that, and again, it's just my personal story, but also in the work that I do and just sort of educating people about, the many different types of Black communities that exist in the world. And that's not everyone's story. And, how, Black people came to the Caribbean, how, African people came to the Caribbean, and, the likelihood of where my African descendants came from, and all these wonderful things that we talk about. And um, when they don't want to accept the complexity of these stories, they just want to believe that one narrative of, my Blackness. It's easier for them to try to put me in this box. Like it again, it's another way of dehumanizing my story. Like you'll hear all these, white people talking about like they'll use like distant ancestors that they've had a drop of whatever, nobility of blood from like 500 years ago. And, people will be like, oh, that's such a fascinating history. But no one wants to hear that about Black people. No one wants to hear about our complex story. It's always that one story of, you were enslaved, the end. Like that's not everybody's story. And, all Blackness isn't that. And so, um, it's it's just one of those things where I won't make it easy for you to put me in that box. You're going to hear about my family history. And I'll tell you a story. So, dear, racism. It's funny because I start the story by like sighing. I'm like, dear. So I remember someone was trying to like guess at, yeah, that's right. Guess at, what my comfort foods were. And again, because the story of African American history is so prevalent in, media and, everything else, and people that are consuming this and they don't know any Black people except for me and who they see on TV. Yes, I know there are people like that. Ah, dear. And, this person, I don't even know like what they were doing around me in the social situation. Someone brought them here around me and I was like, okay, whatever. And then they were trying to say that, oh, they like love, soul food. And, I was like, oh, okay. Like, what does that have to do with me? Of course, I know. I know what the fuck that means. You know what I mean? But I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to be like, I honestly, I can't even fathom like what they're trying to establish. Like I'm supposed to give them some sort of stamp, like I'm bringing out the black stamp of approval here, like I don't know what. But anyways, they're like, "Oh, I just love soul food." I love like collard greens and like cornbread and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, like I said, I'm not really familiar. And they were like, what? Oh, and they were sort of, alluding to the fact that I would not have a black card or that they were blacker than me. This is the pastiest white man you've ever seen in your life. And I was like, well, I believe, and now I'm going into like my teacher mode. Well, I'm like, oh, I believe that that's like, food of that's common among people that live in the southern United States. And I was like, yep, I believe, even white people that live in the southern United States would probably be familiar with collard greens and, those kinds of food. But I was like, for me, my soul food equivalent, if we're trying to draw comparisons here, is from, because my parents are from the Caribbean. I was like, well, for me it's curry chicken, roti, some roti skin, you know what I mean, like nice and wrinkly and good. I was like, mangoes speak to me. I love mango, just like standing over the kitchen sink, just eating that, shoving that mango in my face. You know what I mean? I was like, Aki. These are the kinds of things that speak to me. These are the things that I've grown up with, my flavors, my family, that mean home to me, that call me home, like that feel like comforting, family occasions for me. And, they were just, not accepting of that. And I was like, well, deal with it, and I was like, yeah, you're not gonna, that's not me. Like, and I understand the pressure. It's nobody wants to be a teacher all the time. Nobody wants to be on the spot all the time. I understand the pressure to be what someone expects you to be just because it's easier, because you're tired, because you just want them to go away and leave you alone. I get all of that. I get that. But there's there's also a, what do we say? They're not like us. There's such a difference to there's something about having that integrity to say you're also not going to take away what makes me uniquely me because it serves you, whether it, makes you money or, it's just what you choose to believe. I'm going to be genuinely me all the time. I owe it to my ancestors to celebrate who I am. I love that, the unique flavors that make me me. I love that, I'm Canadian. I love that I'm Black. I love that I'm Caribbean. I love that I'm a woman. I love that, you know, um, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, but also a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, so that my white friends got oppression. They had their grandparents, pretending to be Christian when they came here because they were terrified of telling people that they were Jewish, that people like went to Catholic school as Jewish people because they were like, don't tell anybody you're Jewish. They get oppression. You know what I mean? I love when I tell my friends those stories and they understand it. It's different. It's different. And they know my story and, their family stories are different. They understand their proximity to whiteness gives them privilege. I love that we can have those conversations and understand our diversity and our struggle against white supremacy, that we are united in that way and different in that way as well. So I really think that it's extremely special to, celebrate that uniqueness and celebrate that, um, Just having that kind of uniqueness. And I think that's something that we all need to appreciate and celebrate and, not be shying away from in any way, shape, or form. So let me know what you think, uh, how Black identities really should be celebrated, how they should be unique and diverse, and they are, and why you think people are so willing to, um, really try to make us not be who we truly are and celebrate who we are and all of our um, diverse voices in our community. And just because we are different, it doesn't mean that we aren't coming together as one, as Black people, and celebrating all of our facets of, Blackness and diversity. And I think it's a really special and beautiful thing. And I don't want to, um, I just want to highlight the fact that we can be united and still celebrate our uniqueness and differences. It's one of the amazing things that make us a community. And I think we need to see more of that. Absolutely. So, yeah, let me know about your unique Blackness. I look forward to talking to you next time.